back to governance, which is a good thing to do every now and then, is to take a look at where you are, where you need to be in the next 5 years with your board, and talk about governance issues, what's going on at the table, and how to properly engage, ask those good questions at the table. So that's a bit of our focus today, and I'm going to go through this relatively quick so that there's a chance for dialogue. You can ask us questions, talk about your communities, and share stories of either concerns or good news stories. So perhaps you have some of both of those. So let me start. Many of these 14 LHINs to get together on occasion, only chairs have had that opportunity. So we had a bit of a conversation about, as new board members are coming on, how do we share information across the LHINs? And I'm sure that many of you sort of look at those different tiers amongst your own organizations about sharing of information. And this is what we talked about in our last tiers, and everybody's going to be sharing this across each of the LHINs, having this focus come back to government. And this is a bit of a sort of a generic thing that you can use with any of your boards, actually. And hopefully we have some questions about the openness and the transparency of what's going on at your boards, just like it is in ours. So let's talk about the first one, which is rules of engagement. To participate and contribute, to ask questions, make sure it's a safe environment. One of our chairs commented that with their new members, some of the newer ones didn't feel like they could ask what they refer to as a stupid question. And the chair had to go back and say, it's not a stupid question. Just because you're new to the board and you're learning information, please ask whatever you need to be comfortable about doing that. So it seems to be an issue for those who are certainly coming to the table about feeling safe about doing that there are no stupid questions. And then we talked about courtesy around the table as well. There are many people who come to the table who don't turn their BlackBerries off, their cell phones, and interrupt the meetings. Some of that's just lack of experience. How do we get back to having that respect at the table so that the speaker isn't being interrupted by a tone of a phone and those kind of things? And I'm at fault of doing that on occasion. I know I sometimes get turned off my BlackBerry. And so we just talk about these kinds of things. An environment at the table where everyone is comfortable. What is governance? And this, for newer board members, those who haven't had the experience of sitting at the table, this sometimes is a real learning experience for the newer members. Understanding how you keep your noses in and fingers out. Those kinds of situations are now occurring at many of the tables. I know in one of our other events, and we use lots of examples, where someone was asking about how the hospital was deciding on paint colors of their walls and things like that. Those kinds of details are not at a governance level. You're getting into operations, and probably not an appropriate conversation for our table, but certainly for those of you who are in government, you would understand this as well. But many people come with a background where they've been in the operations area, and they sometimes have a hard time leaving that behind and asking questions that are more at the governance level. Directing mind of the organization, ensuring processes and structures that support decision making, defines the division of authority, knowing and understanding the difference between governance and operations, complies with established mechanisms to achieve accountability. We at the LHIN have a legislative responsibility, but certainly also to our communities, to ask questions around accountability. Many of you do as well, but you need to be clear, and certainly for your newer board members, we all need to know what questions need to be asked, because there is a responsibility for us to do that. Ensures resources are used to the best interest of the organization and the people we serve. And for us, that comes right back to the community level as well, making sure that those things are in place and that we're doing things that are responding to community need. The LHIN has a guide to good governance. It is under review right now, but we have a very big binder. Many of our new board members have seen them. It talks about partners with CEO to provide insight, advice, and support, so establishing that relationship with the senior management team, oversees the performance of the CEO, guiding and evaluating. Board meetings are productive two-way key issues. So again, back to please ask the questions of governments. Don't be afraid to do that. There are no stupid questions. Board members are very involved in discussions at decision making. So making sure that it doesn't seem like a report's coming forward and you're rubber stamping it. That there are key questions that are being asked. You're taking responsibility for that report and you're asking the questions that are important to get to that decision making. Board exercises proper corporate oversight, strategy development, and succession planning. And for many of us, the succession planning has been a big undertaking. We've had a very rapid turnover. So with half of our board leaving in 2010 and then almost the other half leaving shortly by June, succession planning is a challenge for us. And I'm sure for many of you who have a large council turnover, this is also you're losing a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and how do you make sure that that transition process is happening and is being effective for your new board members as well. So you're sharing that information as you come to the table. So the watchdog role, and I won't list these, all up individually, but certainly understanding what that role is, because the accountability back to your community, that's why we are at the table, that's what our appointments mean to us, that we are ensuring that those questions are asked, that we are looking at all of those structures and making sure the focus is on better quality services, driving the process forward, looking at the partnership piece. Certainly, the CEOs are also, we've heard from a number of organizations where you've got your senior staff changing as well. So making sure that that mentoring to new CEOs is happening. Certainly with the LHINs, there's been some changes at those levels, at that level as well. So there is a lot of information that needs to be passed along. Networking and relationships, it's one of the things we talked about in depth because I don't think that we do it as well as we could be doing it. There was some discussion amongst LHIN members about how we get together, and one of the ideas that was brought forward is even if we don't do it provincially, and many of you have organizations that you belong to that are also at a provincial level, how do we bring our sister LHINs, our neighboring LHINs together to share information and talk about the directions that we're going so that we're complementing each other and not doing things that don't help enhance some of the things in healthcare that we are looking at. How do we know when we're achieving our mission? And certainly one of the things that many of us ask, curiosity, we ask questions to gain reasonable assurance that what staff is recommending makes sense. And this is where we have an opportunity. And our LHIN has our business meeting today. We have it once a month, but we also have an opportunity where we have reports come forward to us at our first meeting of the month, which is second Wednesday typically. And we do have an opportunity then to learn about some of the things that are happening in our LHIN, and certainly the staff provide a great tool for us to ask questions with regards to those reports. But it's good practice as well. Does it make sense? So by the time we get to the decision-making process at our second meeting of the month, we have that knowledge and background about what's coming forward and why those recommendations either make sense or need to be tweaked a little bit with some of our community feedback. But we also make sure that during those sessions they are an open process so the public can come and hear those presentations as well. Competence. The board has the right skills and competencies to contribute to the success of the Southwest LHIN. And we just went through a process of submitting names back to the ministry. This was one of the first questions they asked us. What skills do we see you needing at the board? And certainly our board is going to undertake in the next couple of months a review of what things we do need, and we have sent on a list of names of applicants for those other 4 positions. And certainly they've asked about our gaps. Do we have any gaps? Are there any skill sets that we need? And it's not as easy as you think. You have to stop and think about what skills are currently at your table and what you still need. But it's a good review process. It is a good review process for everyone at the board table to make sure that if you have an area of gap, that you're addressing it and you're bringing that education forward to the board.
board has the right tools. And again, this comes back to that you're kept up to date on the legislation, what strategies are being evaluated for effectiveness, Southwest LHIN stakeholders, are they aligned? The board in total confidence knows all directives, policies, and legislations, and we have a lot of them. So it's a good thing to go back and look at your bylaws and your policies. Do they still meet your needs? Are they in fact in line for us with the province? Is the communication to the board accurate, timely, and appropriate? And again, we're going to have that discussion again because the needs may be a little bit different for your newer board members. So in our tools, whether it's the minutes that we're submitting out to the public, whether it's the reports that are coming forward, are they meeting the needs of your current board members? And for the new board members, do they have a different set of criteria for that communication tool? Is the board constructively involved in the Southwest LHIN strategy? And this is really important for us, but for all of you who are undertaking setting your goals for the next term of your current members, it should be an open dialogue, and you should spend quite a bit of time on this one because it does set the tone and the direction for your board and how effective you're going to be for the next few years. Encourage the ability to make tough decisions. This one, for many board members, some folks see LHIN board members, for instance, as being an advocate for their particular community that they come from. We don't think about it that way at the LHIN board table. We represent the entire LHIN. Sometimes there's confusion about that for many of our community members. So when we accept this responsibility, we can bring certainly the expertise of what we know in that particular place that we live in, but at the decision making, it's about how it serves the entire system, not does it complement, for instance, if a hospital or provider is delivering a particular service, how does that change the dynamics of their neighbors in a neighboring community or another service provider? Those are the kinds of things that we have to look at it as a system-wide level, and we ensure that our discussions stay at that level. Certainly the community has a chance and an opportunity for input. Certainly this type of engagement allows for that, but we'd like to know from you whether this would meet your needs, or do we need to do something a little different? Our board-to-board engagement sessions was something that the first board members thought was an important tool for us to have an opportunity to speak to you informally and for you to ask your questions. We just need to know whether or not when we're making decisions, is this the most effective communication tool for you, and how do we make it better if we need to make it better? Role of the chair. Now we have had an acting chair for close to 16 months. So for us, it's been a bit of a challenge. We've been waiting for that process to unfold, but certainly we see the chair's role as being very valuable. In this transition, the person at the top leads the way for the rest of the new board members coming on and ensuring that their needs are met, but also having that direct relationship back to communities. So we hope that we have a new chair soon. Certainly you can see the different things that the chair is responsible for. And I would imagine most of your particular boards, committees also have a similar role for their chair. So these are the things that we are committed to reviewing and learning about, understanding, and as you can see, there are many directives here for the LHIN. Does anyone have any questions on those particular ones? And certainly a number of folks have said to us, so how do you become a member of the board? And we go through the secretariat. We don't have direct, I shouldn't say input, we do get to say a little bit about it, but that appointment comes directly through the ministry. We don't submit names for that, so that's outside of our regular board members' appointments. We do get a say in those individuals and get to review those applications for board members, but not for a chair, and many people don't really have to change.
On the last slide, the last bullet was act as ethics executive for the LHIN. That seems unusual to me.
chairs, I can't think of any of the boards that I've been on at different levels. That is a common role for a chair to do that, to ensure that people aren't in conflicts of interest, are making sure they're attending meetings, they're asking questions in an appropriate way, engaging appropriately. So that's not an uncommon role.
Well, in terms of conflict of interest, I was seeing it as something different than that.
You know, it encompasses a number of things. So that is the responsibility of the chair, and it is legislated for us, but it's not an uncommon thing. So, Warden, I would think when you sit at council, you ensure that people are in compliance. They are not just recently coming from the present term.
That's right.
Yeah,
For me, I guess it's just the way it's worded. You know, normally it would say.
So yes, actually, it could be both, Carrie, you're absolutely right, because Michael also has that responsibility
Yeah, I
as
would think,
CEO.
I would think so.
Yeah.
All of it clearly is.
Well, that's a good point. We can change that. But to your question, yes, that is definitely one of the roles of the board chair, and many other councils do the same thing.
Yeah, I totally agree in terms of conflict of interest, but act as ethics executive, I mean, that sort of implies a bigger role in terms of even within the organization. If there's a matter that comes forward that has to do with ethics that may be more organizational, then it would seem to me that it would be inappropriate for the board chair to act in that regard, because it would be a conflict. But in terms of conflict of interest for the board, it makes absolute sense.
And we do have, and can seek the advice of legal counsel. There is someone appointed just for the LHINs. So it is not an uncommon thing for the LHIN chair to have a question posed, and we seek out that information. So let me give you, for instance, I ran in the last election, and so I had to take a leave of absence. I needed a whole process because that hadn't happened before. We've never been through an election process during appointments. So there was questions around what I should and I shouldn't participate in, which meant I shouldn't participate at all. So there are questions around those kinds of things, and that's what the chair has a responsibility to do for its members, is to clarify those types of things. Yes, Mark?
Maybe I'll just add a bit more, is that under
We want to be, and this is, as we look at this, a high-performing board. Many of the articles written on high-performing boards, we pulled out some of the things that kind of set the tone, and certainly a constructive partnership, working on strategy, culture of inquiry, independent mindedness, ethics, transparency. The whole list speaks to how well your board is functioning, and you need to review whether or not your board is able to achieve those things with the skill set you have, or do we need to provide some training so that you get to these kinds of things. And certainly we will be undertaking that review. We do have a couple of in-services coming up, because we do have this transition going on now, so that we become this high-performing board. That's the goal. And certainly we need to make sure that we're engaging our employees with this. We will be having some learning opportunities with our senior management team around this. And there has to be a trust that comes with this, and building that partnership of trust. Engaged employees, certainly the communication tools that we use. All of these will be under review, and certainly we welcome any of that. I know that we've had many requests from our providers about when we sit down, how we share those types of information around roles and responsibilities, and where the LHIN fits into some of their decision-making processes. So it is a communication tool that we need to develop, and we need to have a further conversation. Certainly, we heard this morning, how do we share this information, and I think it's a great lead-in into how we do that, how we evolve as a LHIN, in order to ensure that you're comfortable, that you know what we're doing, and that on your behalf, there is a communication back and forth that we can make our decisions around and make it work in a successful way. So that is sort of where I'm going to lead off, and I do want to provide this opportunity at this point in time for you to ask questions of the LHIN, but also to talk about those changes that are coming up, and how in a communication strategy are we going to better engage you and inform your newer members to your councils and to your boards